Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Tuesday. This is Seattle Now. There's lots of interest in finding out what Mayor Durkan was texting to other city officials during last summer's protests. One problem, the city says those texts are nowhere to be found, and two whistleblowers aren't comfortable with how the city told them to respond to records requests. KUOW reporter Ashley Hiruko is here to explain, but first, let's get you caught up. Substance abuse has increased during the pandemic, and state health officials now say more people are dying. Preliminary data shows 2020 has the highest number of overdose deaths in a decade. Seattle Times reports fatal drug overdoses in Washington climbed by more than 30% last year. You can get helpful information at stopoverdose.org. Bogus Amazon listings took off during the pandemic. The company says it blocked 10 billion, that's billion with a B, phony listings last year before anyone was fooled. The scammers tried to take advantage of people doing more online shopping. Of course, 10,000 Amazon employees are working on detecting and blocking counterfeits with the help of machine learning technology. And that huge protest in Westlake Park yesterday, not actually a protest. It was a 1,500-person scene from the upcoming Steven Soderbergh film, Kimmy, about an agoraphobic tech worker during the pandemic. They'll be filming around the city for the next few weeks. Almost a year later, there's still so much we don't know about how the city responded to last summer's protests. Some of those decisions are wrapped up in lawsuits, like the one filed by the mother of a teenager who was shot and killed near Cal Anderson Park. But it will be difficult to get a complete picture of the choices city leaders made behind the scenes. That's because months of text messages between the mayor and top city officials are missing. KUOW reporter Ashley Hiruko is here to explain. Hey, Ashley, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So you were one of the people who had filed a request for the mayor's texts. Tell me what happened.
Yes, exactly. So last year, this is in June of 2020. This is a time where there's a lot of protests happening on Capitol Hill, a lot of violence between police and protesters. And during June, police decide to abandon the East Precinct. And me, the reporter that I am, a common thing that will happen is we will file public records requests trying to get insight into things that leadership wouldn't necessarily share with us outwardly. So I filed this records request for 6 days worth of Mayor Jenny Durkan's text messages, both incoming and outgoing, during this time frame of when the police left the East Precinct, trying to suss out exactly why they did that and who made the decision. 5 months later, my request is responded to. I think nothing of it. I, look them over, kind of cast them aside as I usually do with records requests unless I find something interesting within them. Just a daily thing that I would usually do as a journalist. And then it's not until, April of this year that I get this random anonymous email from someone telling me that the records that they sent me were not, in fact, text messages taken from Mayor Durkan's cell phone. Instead, what happened is these public records officers couldn't locate Mayor Durkan's text messages. So they instead went to other city employees and they pulled those instead and sent them to me without disclosing that they had done so.
Okay, so they went to the receiver of the text and recreated it from that end. What was in these texts? What was the mayor talking about?
Within the text messages that I did receive, there weren't very many. There was about 5 pages worth in total and, about maybe 6 messages per page. So not a very huge conversation happening. But what was included was conversations about protesters, conversations with police leadership about what they're doing, even some discussion about media briefings. And what this person emailed me and told me was true. You could tell based on looking at these messages that they were not taken from the mayor's cell phone.
And we should mention that this is not just the mayor, but also the police and fire chiefs' text messages who are caught up in this block of missing information.
Exactly, yeah. Fire Chief Harold Scoggins and then former Police Chief Carmen Best's messages are also missing.
Wow, I have so many questions right now, but I want to start with what is the city saying about why the mayor's conversations are being recreated from a bunch of other people's phones? Why not hand over what's on the mayor's phone?
Well, the messages were missing. So there was actually an investigation that was done in relation to these text messages. 2 public records officers filed a whistleblower complaint. And, they said that they were directed not to disclose that they had recreated these text messages, which they did not do. And so this investigation found that there's about 10 months missing of the mayor's text messages. And they cannot conclude why that is.
So they have no idea what happened to these messages.
I mean, the city says that it was some kind of malfunction that happened as the mayor was switching through various phones. They hired outside forensic analysts to do their due diligence and try to uncover what happened, but they never really found an answer, or rather no proof to say if this was a mistake or if this was something done on purpose.
Sure. Okay, a new phone, that makes some sense. We all lose messages. It happens electronically, right? But the city's response violated the law. The Ethics and Election Commission determined that the way the city responded and the way it carried out the response was in violation of the law.
Exactly. Specifically, they said that Michelle Chen, who is general counsel for the mayor's office, who was also overseeing these 2 public records officers who came forward, they said that she narrowed multiple requests that came in asking for communications and said that because they did not specifically ask for either the mayor's communication or her text messages, that they did not need to provide them with text messages from the mayor's phone. Therefore, they did not need to disclose to them that her text messages were missing.
And what has happened, Ashley, to the whistleblowers who tipped you off?
Well, I tried reaching out to both whistleblowers. One of them, Kimberly Ferrero, she is no longer working with the mayor's office as of last month. And I was told that Stacey Irwin is on extended leave and no explanation given as to why she is.
Okay, it might seem like those 2 people have left that office because they made whistleblower complaints, but in fact, whistleblowers are protected. So that should not be happening, right?
Exactly. And, even though there are protections for them, there's still so much courage that is needed to come forward, especially against someone who is your boss.
What happens now? The messages are gone for good, right?
Exactly. That's what we're told, is that they're gone for good.
And I guess there is the letter of the law that wasn't completely followed, but the perception of what happened in the mayor's office could potentially be longer lasting than maybe what happened legally here.
Exactly. Mayor Durkan is essentially on her way out of office. And this is something I feel that will be discussed, especially as elections are happening for her replacement.
Yeah, I wonder how this kind of breach of trust or perception of breach of trust within the mayor's office is going to be perceived moving forward during the election of a new mayor for the city.
I mean, Lorena Gonzalez, who is, running for Seattle mayor, she's already come forward online at least and said that she wants to work to ensure a more transparent process so that it's not necessarily the mayor's office overseeing its own public records requests coming in.
KUOW reporter Ashley Hiruko, thanks for talking with us. Really appreciate your reporting once again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Seattle Now is produced by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Clare McGrane, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow.